My name is Strava Meer. I'm 20 years old, and I study psychology at the University of Amsterdam. Most days my life looks calm, almost cinematic in its simplicity. Morning coffee by the canal, the sound of bicycles gliding over wet cobblestones, my roommate humming an old Dutch song in the kitchen while the rain paints the window. People see me and say I have a peaceful life. Maybe I even believe it on good days. But peace is a fragile thing. It lives quietly in the corners of your mind, until something or someone reminds you that it was never truly yours. I used to think I had left the past behind, buried under lectures about trauma, human behavior, and emotional healing. I thought that by understanding pain I could outgrow it. But pain doesn't care how much you study it. It just waits, patient, silent like water under ice. And then one day the ice cracks. My mother called me last week. We hadn't spoken in years. Her voice trembled, fragile, almost rehearsed. She said, "Strava, it's time to forgive him. Lars has changed." For a moment I couldn't breathe. The world outside my window blurred. People walking, cars passing, the city alive, but all I could hear was the echo of that name. Lars. The man who took away my voice when I was 15. The man my mother once called her second son. I thought I had built a life strong enough to hold me. I thought I had healed. But healing isn't a straight line. Sometimes the past doesn't knock, it breaks the door open. And when it does, you're left standing there, trembling, 20 years old, holding a phone in your hand, wondering how many times one heart can be asked to forgive. If you're still listening, we want to sincerely thank you for spending your time with us. Truly means a lot. We'd love to know, where in the world are you watching from? Drop your country in the comments and let's see how far this message has reached. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, I highly recommend doing it now so you won't miss any of our upcoming stories. These aren't just ordinary stories, they're filled with meaningful life lessons that can inspire, teach, and stay with you long after the video ends. Hit that subscribe button and join our growing community. I was 15 the night everything broke. It was supposed to be a simple birthday party at Lars's house. He was 25 then, older, charming, the kind of man everyone trusted. My mother adored him, called him polite, well-mannered, the perfect son she never had. I remember the smell of champagne and cake, the way laughter echoed through the hallway, how everyone looked so safe, so sure of each other. Later that night, when the guests had started to leave, he offered to walk me upstairs to get my jacket. The hallway was quiet, the lights dim. I remember the shift, the way his tone changed, the way my body froze. I said no. I said it again. But my voice didn't matter. What followed was not confusion. It was clarity. A sudden, brutal knowing that I wasn't safe, and that the person everyone trusted had become a monster. When I told my mother, she didn't believe me. She looked at me the way people look at something cracked, as if I had ruined something sacred. "Lars would never do that," she said. "You must have misunderstood." Her words cut deeper than what had happened that night. She called Margot, Lars's mother, for advice. Margot, with her perfect hair and perfect composure, told her I was a confused girl seeking attention. And somehow my mother believed her. I refused to be silent. I went to the police myself. I remember the sterile smell of the station, the cold metal chair under me, the way the officer's pen scratched across the paper as I gave my statement. My mother came later, her eyes red, her hands shaking. She begged me to withdraw the report, saying, "You don't understand, Strava. If you do this, everything we built will collapse. Margot will destroy us." But I didn't care about her bakery, or her partnerships, or Margot's power. I wanted truth. I wanted to breathe again. That was when Finn came into my life. He was 17, quiet, a boy who spent more time sketching than speaking. His mother worked part-time at the police station, and he heard about my case. He found me one day sitting by the canal, crying into my coat sleeves. He didn't say much, just sat beside me, handing me a small drawing of a bird breaking out of a cage. "It's not much," he said, "but maybe it'll remind you that you're not trapped forever." For the first time, someone believed me. The months that followed were a blur of court hearings, medical checkups, and whispers. Lars eventually accepted a plea deal, probation, community service, and a restraining order. It wasn't justice, not really, but it was something. Around that time I found out I was pregnant. My mother's face turned pale when I told her. "This will destroy you," she said. I moved out, stayed with Finn's family in a small town near Utrecht, and gave birth to Nora. She was small, fragile, and perfect. I told myself she would never know what kind of world had brought her here. After Nora's birth, my mother reached out again. She cried on the phone, said she was sorry, that she wanted to help raise her granddaughter. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that maybe mothers could change. So I went back. For a while, things were almost peaceful. She made breakfast every morning, knitted little scarves for Nora, and smiled like someone who had finally understood love. One winter afternoon, snow was falling outside, and my class had been canceled because of the storm. I came home early, hoping to surprise them with hot chocolate. The lights were on in the kitchen. I could hear laughter, my mother's voice, Margot's sharper one, and then a man's. When I stepped inside, I froze. Lars was standing there, holding Nora in his arms. Everything inside me went silent. My mother looked startled but not guilty. She said, "Strava, listen, it's not what you think." But I didn't need to listen. I walked straight to Nora, took her from his hands, and packed our things in less than 10 minutes. My mother followed me to the door, crying, begging me to stay, saying Lars had only stopped by to deliver something. Then Lars touched my arm and whispered, "You should learn to be kinder to your mother." That was the moment something inside me broke for good. I left that house with Nora in my arms and never looked back. That night, as I sat in a small rented room with my daughter sleeping beside me, I realized, a mother's love can protect you or destroy you. 10 years can sound like a long time, but trauma has its own calendar, and mine never stopped counting. By the time I turned 25, I had built a new life with Finn and our daughter, Nora. We lived in a small apartment above a flower shop near the canals in Amsterdam. The walls were pale yellow, the kind of color that made mornings softer. I studied psychology at the university, determined to understand what had broken me, and to help others who carried invisible wounds like mine. Finn was still the same quiet, steady man who had once handed me a drawing of a caged bird. He didn't try to fix me, he just stayed. Nora at 10 was full of light and noise, always singing, always asking why. I used to look at her and think, maybe this is what survival looks like. For years I avoided my mother. I didn't answer her calls, ignored her letters. But that changed the summer San, my younger sister, got married. I hadn't seen San since the trial, when she was barely a teenager, standing next to our mother with confusion written all over her face. Now she was grown, beautiful, and radiant in her white lace dress. I wasn't sure why she wanted me there, but her message had been simple. "Please come, Strava. I want you in the pictures." The wedding was held in Leiden, in a glass conservatory filled with orchids. When I walked in, people turned. Some recognized me from old rumors, others just sensed the tension that followed me like a shadow. My mother stood near the front, her hair streaked with gray, her dress elegant but restrained. For a moment our eyes met. She looked smaller than I remembered, like someone whose armor had finally cracked. After the ceremony, she approached me. "Strava," she said softly, "you look beautiful." Her voice trembled, her hands clutching a small purse as if it could hold her guilt together. I didn't respond. Then she said, "I need to tell you something. About back then." I should have walked away. I should have told her that the past didn't need more explanations. But I didn't. Maybe some part of me still wanted to know why. She told me that she hadn't defended Lars because she didn't believe me, but because she was afraid. "Margot threatened to ruin me," she said. "She promised to pull out every investment from the bakery. I was already in debt. I thought if I kept quiet, I could fix everything later." Her voice broke, and for a moment, she looked like a woman drowning in her own shame. But I felt no sympathy. My hands were cold. "You didn't just keep quiet," I said. "You gave him space to walk free. You gave him a chance to touch my child again." She cried, tried to explain that she had cut off contact with Margot years ago. But when San called out to her from across the room, I saw it. A flicker of something familiar. Guilt, yes, but also fear. That was when I noticed the gold bracelet on her wrist. It was the same one Margot used to wear. "You're still talking to her," I said quietly. My mother hesitated, then nodded. "She's sick, Strava. I visit sometimes. I can't hate her the way you do." The words stung more than I expected. I left before dessert, Finn following silently behind me. On the train ride home, he held my hand, but neither of us spoke. I thought I had escaped my past, but that night I started feeling watched again. Began subtly, small things easy to dismiss. A bouquet of white tulips on our doorstep with no note. A letter in my mailbox addressed to my brave girl. A social media message from a profile named Bastian, who wrote things like, "You've grown into such a strong woman," and "Nora must look just like him." First I thought it was Lars. My heart stopped every time my phone buzzed. But the more I read the messages, the more the tone felt familiar. Not threatening, almost affectionate. Like someone who believed they were protecting me. One night, Finn caught me staring at my screen, my hand shaking. He said, "Block him, Strava. Whoever it is, don't let them in." But I couldn't. Something in those words felt like a key turning in a locked door I didn't know still existed. Then one morning I found a small package on our doorstep. A silver locket engraved with Nora's initials. Inside was a photo of me at 15, standing beside my mother, smiling before everything shattered. My first instinct was denial. Maybe someone from the wedding had sent it. Maybe it was coincidence. But the handwriting on the envelope was hers. My mother's. I called her immediately, my voice trembling. "Did you send something to my house?" There was silence. Then she said, "No, of course not. Why would I?" But her tone was wrong, too measured, too rehearsed. For days I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Lars's face blending into hers, Margot's words twisting with my mother's voice. I started doubting my own senses, whether the shadows I saw moving outside were real, or just ghosts of a fear I never buried. One evening, while Nora was asleep, I checked my mother's Facebook account. It was private, almost empty, but when I clicked on the people you may know list, the first profile that appeared was Bastian. The profile picture was a photo of a canal at dusk, the same view from my mother's apartment window. That was when everything went cold. I sat there frozen, feeling the air leave my lungs. I didn't know if I was being haunted by my past or by my own blood. It started with small disturbances, things that could have been accidents if I'd still believed in coincidence. The sound of footsteps outside the apartment at night. The shadow of a figure standing too long near Nora's school gate. The faint smell of Lars's cologne, sharp and synthetic, that once made my stomach turn. First, I tried to reason it away. Trauma can trick your senses, my professors always said. The brain replays danger even when you're safe. But safety is a fragile illusion. And mine shattered the moment I opened my email one morning and found a video attachment from an anonymous sender. The subject line read, "You should keep your windows closed." The video lasted 12 seconds. It showed Nora in her bedroom drawing at her desk, shot from outside the window through the curtains. My hand shook so badly I nearly dropped the laptop. I slammed it shut and screamed for Finn. He watched it once, his face turning white. Then he called the police. They came within the hour. 2 officers in plain clothes, polite, detached. They asked for the file, took a few notes, and promised to look into it. I watched them leave, their words evaporating in the air like smoke. That night I locked every window, checked every door twice, and still couldn't breathe. Days passed. No update, no suspect. The silence from the authorities began to feel like betrayal all over again. I started watching everyone. Nora's teacher, Freya, too warm, too curious, always asking about our home life. The mailman who lingered a little too long. Even Finn, who tried to comfort me, but sometimes paused before answering questions about where he'd been. My mind, once trained to heal others, turned against me. Every face was a threat. Then came the discovery I couldn't unsee. I was searching for a document on my mother's old email, trying to find proof that she was behind the Bastian account. That's when I found it. An archive thread dated 3 months earlier. Subject: about Strava and Nora. The sender, Lars. The reply, my mother. Her message was short. She lives in Amsterdam now, near deepens. Nora's growing fast. Maybe you should let go, Lars. My vision blurred. My mother hadn't just betrayed me once. She had done it again, knowingly, deliberately. She had given him our location. That night I couldn't stop shaking. I confronted her over the phone, my voice breaking between words. She denied it at first, then said, "I was only trying to make peace." He said he wanted to apologize. Apologize? That word tasted like poison. After that call, sleep became impossible. I sat by the window until dawn, watching every car that passed. Then around midnight one evening, I woke to the sound of the window creaking open. The cold wind slipped into the room like a whisper. On the sill lay a small envelope, damp from the rain. Inside was a photograph Lars standing near a playground smiling, and on the back in red ink, "She looks like you." I dropped it. My knees gave out. Finn found me on the floor, clutching the picture. He grabbed his phone, called the police again. But by the time they arrived, the envelope was gone. The window frame showed no prints, no signs of forced entry. They looked at me like I was unstable. Another hysterical woman seeing ghosts. After they left, Finn turned to me. His eyes filled with both fear and exhaustion. "Strava," he said quietly, "you need rest. You're unraveling." I wanted to scream that I wasn't, that this was real, that Lars was here somewhere watching. But my voice broke. "If I'm unraveling, it's because the world keeps pretending this didn't happen," I whispered. We began to argue more. He didn't stop loving me, but the air between us thickened with doubt. Sometimes he'd stay up late in the kitchen, staring at the same laptop I couldn't bear to touch, trying to track IP addresses to do something. Other times he'd just sit beside me in silence, holding my hand, as if afraid to let go but equally afraid to stay. Nora, once bright and curious, started withdrawing into herself. She stopped singing in the mornings. Her drawings turned darker, black lines and empty eyes. One afternoon I found a note she had scribbled on the back of her notebook. "Mom, are we safe?" I couldn't answer. I realized then that fear was no longer just mine. It had seeped into her, quiet, invisible, shaping her world before she even had a chance to live freely in it. That night, as I sat beside her bed, listening to the rain tapping against the window Lars had once looked through, I felt something inside me break, not from weakness, but from knowing that survival alone wasn't enough anymore. When your child starts carrying your fear, you realize silence is not safety, it's surrender. The call came on a gray Tuesday morning, the kind of morning where Amsterdam felt like it was still half asleep. My phone buzzed with an unknown number. I almost ignored it. Lately, every unknown number felt like a threat. But something in me, maybe exhaustion, maybe instinct, made me answer. "Strava van Meer?" a calm voice asked. It was female, firm, deliberate. "My name is Fleur van Loon. I believe we have something in common." "Lars." My heart froze. That name still had the power to drain the air from my lungs. "What do you mean?" I asked cautiously. "I was married to him," she said quietly, "and he destroyed everything." I didn't speak for several seconds. Fleur continued, her voice trembling slightly as she told me that she and Lars had a daughter together, and that he had hurt them both. She had fled to Paris 5 years ago, changed her number, tried to rebuild her life. But she'd seen my name in a support group forum for trauma survivors and decided to reach out. "Lars is a predator," she said. "He plans. He manipulates. He studies his victims like a scientist studies an experiment. You're not imagining the stalking. It's part of his pattern." Then she emailed me a folder. Inside were scanned police reports, restraining orders, screenshots of messages Lars had sent under fake identities, and notes from his therapy sessions that Fleur had found before leaving him. As I read through the documents, my hands trembled. Lars's control wasn't random. It was organized, ritualistic. He had used people as tools, friends, colleagues, even family. Fleur's description of his methods matched everything I'd experienced. The gifts, the anonymous messages, the manipulation through people close to me. For the first time in years, I felt something that wasn't fear. It was anger, sharp, focused, almost cleansing. I took Fleur's evidence straight to the police. This time they didn't dismiss me. The new chief investigator, Inspector Vermeer, took one look at the file and said, "Ms. van der Meer, we're going to treat this seriously." He assigned a digital crimes team to trace Lars's online activity. Fleur worked with them remotely from Paris, sending additional evidence, financial records, correspondence, even a copy of Lars's fake passports. For once, I wasn't alone in the fight. Word spread through my neighborhood. Amsterdam, for all its size, has the heart of a small town. People listen. People care. When Lisbeth, the elderly woman who owned the cafe below our building, heard what was happening, she decided to act. "You've been living in shadows too long, Maish," she told me, handing me a cup of coffee. "Let people know the truth." A week later, she organized a community gathering in her cafe. The smell of cinnamon and fresh bread filled the air. There were about 30 people. Parents from Nora's school, neighbors, even strangers who'd heard about our story. I stood in front of them, my palms sweating, my throat tight. First my voice shook. But as I began to speak, about the night of the assault, about my mother's betrayal, about the years of silence, the trembling stopped. People listened. Some cried. Some nodded in quiet understanding. When I finished, Lisbeth stood beside me, her arm around my shoulder. "No one faces this alone," she said. "We protect our own." That night, for the first time, I slept without checking the locks. But peace, as I'd learned, never lasted long. 2 weeks later, Fleur called again. Her voice was urgent. "I think he's trying to get closer through someone else." She sent me screenshots from social media. A man named Peter Van Loon, listed as a substitute counselor at Nora's school. He was Lars's cousin. My stomach turned. I called the school immediately. They confirmed that Peter had started working there only a month ago. He was responsible for student well-being. My blood ran cold. I raced to the school. Nora was in the art room painting a tulip field. Peter was standing beside her, smiling. Too close. Too familiar. I walked straight up to him. "Step away from my daughter," I said, my voice low but sharp. He looked startled. "Excuse me." "Don't play dumb," I hissed. "You're Lars's cousin. I know everything." Within an hour, Inspector Vermeer arrived. They questioned Peter on the spot. Fleur once again sent documents linking him to Lars's previous activities. Emails, money transfers, and a message from Lars himself. "Get close to her, she trusts educators." That was enough. Peter was arrested. When the officers let him out, Nora clung to me, her little hands shaking. But this time I could look her in the eyes and say, "It's over, sweetheart. He can't hurt us anymore." Later that evening, I met Fleur in person for the first time. She came to Amsterdam, wearing a long gray coat and carrying a thick folder under her arm. We sat at Lisbeth's cafe, the same place where I'd told my story. Her face was tired but kind. "You were brave," she said, sipping her tea. "Most people run from him. You stood your ground." "I wasn't brave," I replied softly. "I was cornered." She smiled faintly. "Sometimes that's how warriors are made." We talked for hours, two women bound by the same darkness, now choosing to fight it together. Before she left, she handed me a small envelope. Inside was a photograph, a blurry shot of Lars taken by private investigators in Mexico. "He's running out of places to hide," she said. That night, as I tucked Nora into bed, I realized something had shifted. The fear was still there, but so was strength, not born of isolation but of connection. For the first time, I wasn't just surviving. I was fighting back with an army beside me. The hospital room smelled like antiseptic and rain. Clean, sharp, and heavy with something unspoken. My mother lay in bed, pale and small beneath the white sheets, her chest rising and falling with each strained breath. Machines hummed softly beside her, keeping rhythm with the guilt that had haunted me for years. When San called to tell me that Mom had suffered a heart attack, I didn't know how to feel. My first instinct wasn't concern, it was confusion. After everything she had done, after the years of silence, betrayal, and fear, why did a part of me still ache to see her? I stood by the doorway for a long time before walking in. She opened her eyes slowly, and when they met mine, something flickered there, regret, maybe, or the ghost of the woman I used to call home. "Strava," she whispered, her voice thin and breaking. "You came." I nodded, unsure of what to say. The room was quiet except for the faint hum of the machines and the muffled footsteps in the hallway. For a moment, it felt as if the world outside had paused, giving us this one fragile chance to face what neither of us ever could. She tried to smile, but her lips trembled. "I was wrong," she said softly. "About everything." I didn't move. I wanted to believe her, but the part of me that had once been a child, the one who begged her to believe, to protect, to love unconditionally, didn't trust words anymore. She reached out a frail hand, and after a long pause, I took it. Her skin was cold. "I thought I was protecting our family," she murmured. "I thought if I sided with Margot, I could save the bakery, keep things stable. I told myself I'd make it up to you later." My throat tightened. "Later never came, Mom. Tears filled her eyes. I know. And I've lived with that every day. We sat there for a long time in silence. Then, as if summoning the last of her strength, she said, Lars contacted me again. He's in Mexico. Mexico City. He called last month. He said he misses Nora, that he dreams of seeing her. My stomach turned. You talked to him? She nodded weakly. I didn't tell you because I didn't want to scare you again. But you need to know he's hiding there using a false name. Annika, his wife, doesn't know who he really is. You have to warn her. That was the moment the pieces began to shift again, not toward fear but toward action. After leaving the hospital, I contacted Inspector Meer. I gave him the details. The number Lars had used, the location, everything my mother remembered. Within days, the case was transferred to Interpol. Then came a surprise, an email from Annika herself. She introduced herself as Lars's current wife, a financial consultant at a bank in Mexico City. Her message was short, formal, almost detached. I know who he really is. I want to help. We arranged a call through Interpol's liaison office. Annika looked exhausted, the kind of exhaustion that only comes from living next to a monster without realizing it. She had found hidden drives, passwords, and photographs Lars had kept in a locked drawer. Files with names, dates, videos. Proof that he had continued his pattern, watching, following, hurting others even while pretending to live a normal life. I should have seen it sooner, she said, her eyes filled with guilt. You couldn't have, I told her. He's an expert at masks. With Annika's cooperation, Interpol launched a coordinated operation. Days turned into weeks of tense waiting. Every morning I checked my phone, half expecting news, half dreading it. Then one early dawn, as Amsterdam was still wrapped in mist, my phone buzzed with a message from Meer. They got him. Lars had been arrested in Mexico City, found asleep in his apartment, surrounded by his usual chaos. Surveillance equipment, stolen documents, and a wall covered in photographs of his victims. The police seized everything. They said he looked calm when they entered, almost amused, as if he'd been expecting the ending all along. I didn't cry when I heard it. Instead, I sat by the window watching the city wake up. Trams rumbling, cyclists rushing past, the first sunlight slicing through the fog. For the first time in years, I breathed without fear. Later that day, the news spread. The radio mentioned it between traffic reports and weather updates. A Dutch citizen, previously convicted of sexual assault, has been apprehended in Mexico City in collaboration with Interpol and the Amsterdam Police Department. His name, Lars van Loon, echoed through the room. I closed my eyes, letting the words sink in. Justice, after all this time, had finally spoken. I went back to the hospital that afternoon. Mom was asleep when I arrived. I sat beside her bed and whispered, "It's over. He's gone." She didn't respond, but her breathing softened, as if her body had been waiting for those words. That night, as I walked home through the damp streets of Amsterdam, the city lights reflected in the puddles like tiny fragments of dawn. Everything felt strangely still, not triumphant but peaceful. Justice didn't roar or demand attention. It arrived quietly with no applause, no fireworks. Just the soft hum of closure settling into the cracks of my life. Justice came quietly, not as a storm but as a sunrise. Lars was awaiting extradition. Somewhere far away, justice was moving at its slow, deliberate pace. A process that didn't heal, but at least stopped the bleeding. In the meantime, life in our small town began to settle into something resembling peace. My mother passed away 3 months later. I went to her funeral. There were only a handful of people, the air filled with rain and regret. I stood by her grave, not as a daughter seeking comfort, but as a woman saying goodbye to the part of herself that kept hoping her mother would change. I placed a white lily on the coffin and whispered, "I forgive you, but I'll never forget." At home, Nora started therapy. For the first time in years, she slept through the night. Sometimes she still checked the window locks before bed, just like I used to, but her laughter was slowly returning. Finn went back to painting. One afternoon, I found him sketching a portrait of us. Nora at the piano, me by the window, light pouring through. He smiled and said, "This is what home looks like now." Every morning I make coffee, sit by the same window and watch Nora play. Her fingers glide across the keys, each note carrying a piece of our healing. I still lock the doors twice every night. But I also open the windows every morning. Because survival is not just about shutting out the darkness, it's about letting light back in. And here's what I've learned after all of it. Don't stay silent against injustice. Community can be your shield. Forgiving doesn't mean forgetting. Protecting your child comes before anything else. And healing isn't about erasing pain. It's about learning to live with it and still finding beauty in the morning light. If my story touched you, please like, share, and subscribe. Not for me, but for every survivor still searching for the strength to speak. For every voice that was once silenced. Your support helps their stories be heard. Thank you for listening. For staying until the end. You are part of the healing too.